and welcome back to the Latino Free Minds podcast, your home for bold conversations grounded in faith and fueled by a passion for truth. I'm fired up today because we're relaunching something truly special, our Know Your Candidate series, where we're sitting down with some of the men running to be California's next governor. Now, let me tell you something straight from the heart. California, our beautiful golden state, is worth fighting for. It's worth saving. Packing up and leaving? That's not who we are. We're a people of resilience, of hope, and unwavering faith. And we're not giving up on this place we call home. Here at Latino Free Minds, we're rooted in our Christian values, faith, hope, and charity. These aren't just words to us. They're the guiding light for how we live, how we love, and how we lead. Over the next few weeks, we're bringing you face-to-face with the candidates who want to steer California's future. Our mission? To dig deep, ask the tough questions, and give you the clarity you need to make the best choice for your family, your community, and your faith. This isn't about politics as usual. It's about finding leaders who share our values, who see California not just as a state, but as a home filled with families, dreams, and God-given potential. We believe that when you listen to these conversations, you'll be empowered to vote with your heart and your conscience, grounded in the principles that matter most: faith in God, hope for a better tomorrow, and charity toward one another. California's future is in our hand, and together we can choose a path that honors our families, strengthens our communities, and reflects the love and truth we hold dear. So grab a seat, open your heart, and join us for these powerful Know Your Candidate episodes. Let's shine a light, lift our voices, and show the world that California is worth fighting for. Stay with us. This is going to be a journey you don't want to miss.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Latino Free Minds, episode 120. And this is our deep dive with Chad Bianco, Riverside County Sheriff and 2026 Republican candidate for California governor, ready to bring law and order grit to Sacramento. With over 30 years leading deputies through crime surges, wildfires, budget battles, Chad's seen California struggles up close. Voters are at their limit, sick of tent cities, shoplifting sprees, illegal immigration costs, and prices that push families out. From schools to AI, Californians want real solutions, not more promises. Chad's here to lay out his plan to turn California around. And let's get started with Sheriff Chad Bianco. Sheriff, how you doing?
I'm happy to be here. I'll tell you, I loved the intro. You guys did a great job on the intro.
Thank you, thank you. You know, California does, it means a lot to all of us here, and we've said it many times. We're not leaving. We're gonna fight for as long as we can until God Himself has to say, you know, get out of here.
That's
But
exactly that's exactly right. I have on some of the merchandise that I sell flags, and on the bottom of the flag, we have stickers too that say the same thing, but on the bottom it says, "This is my home. I shouldn't have to leave."
Mhm.
And that's really where I am personally in doing this. Is, man, everybody's leaving, and I mean that you don't run away when things get tough. You stand up and fight, and you stand up and try and make a difference for people. So I think I'm glad that there are many, many more Californians that are feeling the same way.
Yeah, me too. We see it out there. So, this battle's not over. So you've spent decades protecting Riverside County as sheriff. Can you tell us about your journey, kind of what drives you to run for governor, and why you believe California needs your leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. My journey to here actually starts coming to California in the first place. I was born and raised in a different state. I was born and raised in Utah, and I came here when I was 22 years old, 1989. And I came here for the California dream. I grew up in a very small town in another state, and you guys are young, a lot younger than me, and from coming from another state and from an out of state looking in, there was a at that time California was like up on a pedestal, and people were if you met somebody from California, you was automatically impressed, and you were in awe and envious that they lived in California. And as I grew up, I knew I wanted to move to California for that California dream to achieve a better life for myself, for my family, more so than the opportunity that was offered where I grew up. And that's really what brought me here. I came here for the California dream. And for me, God was willing and he was good, and I achieved it. I mean, I worked hard. I did some construction jobs before I found law enforcement. And in 1993, I ended up getting hired by the Riverside County Sheriff's Office, and I've been here ever since. And I found my California beauty queen. We got married. I mean, we've got kids. We raised 4 great kids. 3 of them are here. One of them's in the Army, but he's in North Carolina. That's where he's stationed now. He's a California kid at heart, so I'm hoping he comes back, when the Army's done, or if he gets transferred out here. But my other kids are here. The other 3 are still here. And the problem that as in one generation, it went from my generation, it was attainable, and now for my kids, that California dream is out of reach for them. And they're part of those, that large group of millions of Californians that are looking for other states that, is their dream achievable there? And they're fleeing California because of the cost of living. They can't afford to buy a home. The taxes are so high. The gas, the groceries, the electricity, everything is higher in California than in other states. And the schools now are just appalling. My kids don't want to send my grandkids to schools here. So there's so many things. We're afraid of losing our kids. We don't want to. We don't want to move. My wife and I absolutely love it here. She was born and raised here. And after the fight that I've been doing for the last 6 years as the sheriff in Sacramento, I realized that there were many other groups that were in Sacramento with me fighting for their own industry, whether it was teachers or the building industry or the fuel industry, the gas industry. Everyone was in Sacramento fighting that common enemy, and it was our government. And all of us are realizing it's like, man, there isn't much here other than the weather that's keeping us here, and just the beauty that California has to offer, and then that love for California that we have in our hearts. But our government it seems like they're doing everything they can to push us away. And so as we started getting closer to this election, I realized that the people that were signing up to run for governor, to be the next governor, they really are the same names and the same faces they're the ones that put us here in this position to begin with. And I mean, that's not how things work. You don't get to cause all of these problems for 20 years and then toward the end of your career stand up and say, "Hey, make me the governor. I want to do all these things great for you," because you had the opportunity to do them all along and you chose not to. And so in the end, it was a very tough decision for me, because in my heart, being the sheriff of Riverside County is a much better job than being governor. But in the end, I truly do believe, after traveling the state last year with Prop 36, trying to make sure that we got that passed, and talking with residents and talking with people that have been here forever or their whole lives, or people that moved in and now thinking of moving back to where they came from, I realized in these discussions that I believe Californians are in a place where we're starving for someone that we can believe in. We're starving for someone that we can trust, that is leading our government, that is in government, that actually cares about us. And I think in the conversations that I've had, this role that I have as being the sheriff fits that bill. I mean, some people like cops, some people don't like cops, but it seems like everybody likes our sheriff. Everybody likes your sheriff, and we vote for them, and they're running a big portion of government. And I truly came to the conclusion and the belief, with many others, that I was going to be, and I was feeling that role of being the best opportunity we had of breaking into this cycle of the same politicians over and over again. And in the end, I just decided, I either need to stop complaining, or I need to stand up and do something and continue this fight. And I realized that the only way things are going to get better if we actually have a leader at the top of California. And the only way that's going to happen is if I ran for governor and win, and able to provide that service to Californians that I've been doing for the last 32 years for Riverside County.
No, that's good, and that makes a lot of sense. Um, we've talked to many candidates throughout this podcast, and a lot of people just kind of feel that calling that kind of if nobody else is gonna not if nobody else is gonna do it, but hey, I'm here. I know I can do it. I might as well step up. But your sheriff experience gives you a frontline view into California's challenges, especially the homelessness crisis tearing through our streets. With voters desperate for action, Danny is going to dive into this issue here.
Good.
Yeah, so my question to you, sir, is how will you choose or how will you house California's 180,000 homeless and tackle mental health and addiction?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, and honestly, I will tell you that's the best way that anyone has ever asked me that question. Normally, it's just they stop at the first half and just say, "What are you going to do about the homeless?" And so for me, we are going to, like many aspects of our government, we're going to have to start being honest, and we're going to have to start telling the truth about what we're even dealing with. Because if we don't, you can never fix it. So this is not a homeless problem. This has absolutely nothing to do with homes. Every single one of the people, those 180,000 people that we see on the street that are living under underpasses, freeway overpasses, that are living on the beach, that are living in our parks, that are living behind businesses out in public, all of those people have one thing in common. They all had homes, and they were all kicked out of their homes for one reason or the other. They were either kicked out by family members or landlords because of their drug use, which led to theft and other things, or their drug and alcohol use and abuse was so great that they either weren't working or they weren't paying their rent, and so sometimes they were evicted and they found themselves on the streets. But the bottom line is they all had homes that their drug and alcohol abuse, which has led them to this drug-induced psychosis of what we see on the street, that is what we have here. And that is what we're dealing with. And until we call it that, until we treat it like that, we're not going to fix it. So number one, it's the second part of your question. We absolutely must address the drug and alcohol addiction that is causing this mental illness, this chemical mess up in your brain that's leading to the mental illness that we see. If we're going to address it, we must get them help for the drug and alcohol condition. We must address their mental health concern. If the drug and alcohol didn't do it by taking care of that, if they still had mental health issues, we have to get them back to normal. We have to make them productive members of society again, and then we can get them back to where they were. Hopefully, we have you have a system set up with I got to back up a little bit. What we have right now is a homeless industrial complex. We have the government taking all of our taxpayer money and simply giving it unaccounted for to nonprofits and NGOs and other entities that are taking upwards of 90%, 98% of that money for themselves, and they are doing nothing to help the homeless. Buying a hotel is going to do absolutely nothing for these people we see on the streets because they don't want those rooms. The law enforcement world, we talk to them every single day. We try and get them help and services every single day, and they don't want it because they look at us and say, "You're the one that's messed up. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine." Because mentally, they're just not there. They're not thinking straight. They're not sober. They're not mentally stable. And until we get them sober and mentally stable, they're not going to make that rational decision to accept the help, to accept the treatment, to accept the housing, and to accept the integration that we can offer them to get them back into a job or back into the workforce. And that's how it has to happen. The funny thing is this is not, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We had this before 2014 when Prop 47 was passed, when we would arrest someone that was out on the street, that was the people that we see, we would arrest them for possession of drugs. And when they were in court, the judge gave them the opportunity. You're either going to go to jail or you're going to go to rehab, but you get to pick. And they, for the most part, they picked rehab. And it worked. I mean, maybe not that time. Maybe it took 2 times or 3 times before they finally realized that, okay, this is it. I've hit my rock bottom, and I'm going to make it this time. But sometimes it was the first time, and that's all it took. And that was taken away from us. And from 2014 till now, it's a straight line. If you put it on a graph, it's a straight line going up from 2014 to the numbers that you have now of that increase in homelessness. When they legalized drugs, they started giving them money to be homeless. They get $1,500 a month in disability money, and it's basically we're enabling them to be homeless and to keep using drugs and keep living on the streets. It doesn't make sense. We have to end that cycle and actually get them help, because as a human, as a person with a heart and a soul, you can't look at them and see the illness that they're going through. The majority of them sleeping on the streets, rotting in their own skin. They're diseased, and I mean their skin is falling off, and sores and abscesses and things like that. It's inhumane. It is absolutely inhumane that we are allowing this to happen, and we have to get to the realization that we have to force them into treatment to get them sober so they can make a rational decision to get better.
I agree 100%. And you kind of touched on the root cause of why these people are homeless. Because a lot of the times people, when they talk about the homeless, it's like they talk about something that could be easily fixed. Um, I don't know, by throwing money at it, kind of like Gavin Newsom does all the time. He boasts about how much money he's invested into, these programs, which obviously aren't working. So it's nice to hear you talk about the root cause of what's causing people to go homeless. Um, so with that being said, um, what would be the first step to clearing encampments safely?
Yeah. So number one, we have to have a place to put them. We either and temporarily, as much as people don't like this, um, temporarily, jail is an okay spot for a couple of days until they get sober. We can get them. When what we have in jail is we have security, we have stableness, and we have medical and mental health care. And if we have them for a couple of days, we can get them sober. We can stabilize their mental health conditions, and we can get them making rational decisions to where we can then transfer them, allow them to agree to going to live-in treatment centers to get rid of the drug and alcohol abuse, and then integrate them back into a workforce environment. That's what has to happen. And it's unfortunately, we have to realize that we're going to have to force some of them to do it. They're not doing it on their own. They're not willingly going into these programs. And it's just because they can't make a rational decision when they're not sober. So once you make that decision and you get them into the jail and you're getting them, you have the facilities where you can take them. It's just a matter of cleaning up the mess. I mean, they're living in squalor. They're living in filth. And I mean, some of it we treat it as a biohazard when we have to clean those things up. It's really just a matter of having the capacity to help them, to get them into services, and then actually cleaning up where they came from, cleaning up these encampments, demolishing them and getting rid of them. That's not an option. We don't want them going back there. We want them taking the services that we're giving them that are humane.
Mm-hmm. Homelessness often overlaps with rising crime, a problem Californians feel every day. Your law and order record as sheriff is front and center. So Gio would like to explore how you keep our community safe.
Sheriff, the last election, Californians have with Proposition 36, they've responded to the penalties that were going on in California. How will you enforce Proposition 36's theft and drug penalties statewide and address addiction?
Yeah, that's a fantastic way into this, because Prop 36 was not a fix-all. It was not the cure-all for everything that's going on, but it was what we identified as the main issues that were contributing not only to the theft, but to the drug abuse, the homeless abuse, the drug addiction problem, and the theft. And so it really did. By implementing Prop 36, we can make substantial changes and improvements and advancements in what we're doing right now to address those issues. The problem right now is that the state is not giving us the money required for that. They're continuing to completely waste and abuse all of that money that they're giving to the homeless industrial complex right now. They're making no changes to that. And they're not giving us the money that we need for the treatment centers, for the alcohol treatment, the drug treatment, for the work induction programs and those types of things. And that's truly all we need. In addition to, there has to be a change in our judicial system from the top, from our court system. We have to start holding these judges accountable to make them sentence these people and hold these people accountable to the new guidelines under Prop 36, because we have activist judges that did not want Prop 36 to pass, that they are ignoring it, and they are still sentencing under old guidelines of Prop 47 that is truly part of the problem. And we need to hold these judges accountable. As the governor, I will make sure that Prop 36 is fully funded. We will have enough courtrooms. We will have enough judges. We will have enough treatment centers. We will have these things available that we can put that 180,000 people in, and we will get them back to their families and their homes and the lives that they had before they took this unfortunate turn that brought them to this situation. It's not going to be as difficult as you think. It just takes the desire to make it go away. And when you look at what we have now, I want the government payments into these organizations to stop. I want the use of that taxpayer money to stop. And the current situation that we have and the way we are running things, it is nothing but a money laundering program from your taxpayer dollars to the people that manage and run and employed by these nonprofits. And they should not be getting that money. None of it should be going to them, because they have proven for the last 12 years that they are the problem. They are helping no one.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that. Your focus on safety hits home for voters frustrated by Sacramento's policies, kind of like what you were mentioning, especially on illegal immigration, which is a pretty hot topic nowadays, which many say strains our resources. Your sheriff's perspective is key here, and Daniel Silva's would like to expand on this.
Yes. So before I go on with the question, I do want to thank the sheriff right here for keeping my family, my neighbors, my community safe in Rupa Valley of Riverside County. So we thank you so much, Sheriff. And thank you for keeping the public safety and the crime down here. Thank you so much. You well deserved. And then here goes my question here regarding immigration, the next topic. How will you curb illegal immigration strain on housing and healthcare while supporting legal immigration?
Yeah, so that's the key right there. Is the end, is that we absolutely have to support legal immigration. Throughout the history of our country, we have always had immigration into this country. It is a part of our country, and it must continue. And unfortunately for us, we are suffering the consequences of a federal government failure by both parties to address the concerns that we have on immigration. And what we have learned and what we have seen in the past is that it seems both parties use the immigration topic only in election years. They promise all of these things in election years, and then nothing ever happens because of it, because they're going to do the same thing the next election cycle, is make these same promises to try and emotionally get you to vote for them, and forget that they promised the same thing 2 years ago or 4 years ago or 6 years ago. And we're just in this vicious cycle. So number one has already been done. Our border has been closed. President Trump, whether you like him or not, has closed our border. I can tell you from a law enforcement perspective, on day one, when President Biden opened the border and we saw a complete influx of people coming across the border that was just unchecked, the same thing happened on day one when President Trump took over. The border was closed. in those first few days, there was nationwide across the entire southern border. We went from 10,000 apprehensions a day to less than 10. And it was a true closing of our border. That has to happen for sure. But then now we need to ramp up and fix the immigration process so people actually have a path to get into this country, because right now they're making the risk reward is far too great to break the law than to do it the right way. If you do it the right way, it's going to take you 15 years and then you may not get it. If you do it the wrong way, you just come across the border illegally, you try and sneak in, you try and get in, you pay a lot of money to get smuggled in, and then you just take your chances of not getting deported, and you hope that you're able to provide for your family or provide a better life for yourself. That's not the way to do it. We have to make sure that we are vetting all of these people that are coming in. We're letting the right people in, and quite frankly, we don't want their prisoners. We don't want their mentally ill, for these people from other countries. That certainly is not what we want in this country. But we want people that want to come to America to actually be Americans, and that are coming here because we're the greatest country in the world, and because they want better lives, and they want to actually make a difference in their lives and to help the country be better. And that's the history, and that's the beauty of our immigration system, but we don't have that now. So right now, everything seems to be broken. California is a sanctuary state, and I will tell you that it's an abomination. It is an absolute failure in that it does nothing to keep Californians safe. It does nothing to protect the immigrant community that is here, whether they're here illegally or illegally. It does nothing to protect them. The only people it protects, and who it was designed to protect, were criminals who break our laws, that end up in prison and jail. Sanctuary state laws prevent sheriffs and prisons from working with the federal government to deport those individuals. It prevents us from deporting people that are breaking our laws and victimizing us. Sanctuary state law has to go away. We have to do away with that so the federal government can stay out of our neighborhoods. To pick up these people, all they have to do is come to our jails and our prisons, and then remove them safely from there. And then we wouldn't see what we see on the streets right now, and what we see on TV all the time about, ICE out in the streets or in neighborhoods or doing whatever it is they're doing. They're targeting specific individuals that have been deported already, that have committed crimes. And when they go looking for them, unfortunately, there are unintended consequences to what they're looking for, because they encounter somebody else that's here illegally that may be they're law abiding, but they're here illegally, and unfortunately that enters them into the system of deportation also. So we absolutely must end sanctuary state. We must deport people that are breaking our laws, violating us, victimizing us, and we absolutely must work with the federal government to ensure California is the biggest and most populous state in the country. We can force the federal government to fix the immigration process, to make it easier for these people to become citizens, to make them easier to come into the country and do it the right way, which is how it should happen.
No, that's true. And you hit some key points that I think we like to highlight on our end, which is, they constantly promise you, what is it, that saying, they dangle the carrot and then nothing happens. And then here you go again, because it's an election year. And that's true. And another point that, again, we also like to talk about is sanctuary cities, and how I think that hurts if you want to call them hardworking illegal immigrant, more than it helps. But immigration strain on housing underscores how unaffordable California has become. Families are struggling with sky-high rents and home prices, and voters want relief. So Danny will have the next question on that topic.
Yes. How would you cut regulations to lower housing costs while respecting local concerns?
Yeah, that is really, truly going to be my number one priority. Obviously, public safety is something big. We've got many problems with our infrastructure and everything else, but the overarching concern of Californians is it's too expensive to live here. It's too expensive to buy groceries. It's too expensive to buy gas. It's too expensive to buy a home or to have rent or any of those things. And the bottom line is, it's going to be easier than you think, because all of these things. None of them are laws. They're all regulations. They're all government imposed regulations, sanctions, fees, requirements that are driving up all of these costs. And because they are all regulations, every single one of them can be removed by the governor. But with a stroke of a pen and an executive order, I can take away an absolute minimum of about $1.80 per gallon of gas, immediately goes away. And then you take more of that regulation away from the oil companies and you allow them to drill. And now, because California has more oil than Texas, Texas has the cheapest gas in the country because they pump their own oil and they refine their own oil, and they pay $2.35 a gallon. That's what it costs in Texas. And we could do the same thing. We have more oil. We should be pumping it, refining it, and bringing that to the cheapest in the country. We could do it here in California if the government wanted it to happen. And I do. I want us to have the cheapest gas in the country. And what that does, that lowers the entire cost of living across the board, because no matter what we buy, what we consume, we go to the grocery store for food, we go to the hardware store, the furniture store, the whatever it is that we're purchasing, all of those items that we consume all had to be transported into where we are, where you're buying them. And those transportation costs are what are driving everything up. The cost of gas is so high that it drives the cost of goods and services up because of that. So taking care of the price of gas automatically lowers the cost of living in California because everything is going to be lower. And then you continue with the deregulation of our businesses and of our home builders. And you take away those government imposed bureaucratic red tape with the stroke of a pen on day one. And now you get home builders that are actually wanting to go out and build homes because they can afford it. The reality of our home prices in California is a third or more of the price of a home is being paid to government because of regulations and fees. And those fees and regulations that those builders have to pay, we as the consumer end up paying that on the back end. They're not going to absorb, the price of a home, the median price of a home is $900,000 for a home. So that means $300,000 or more is just a fee to the government. If that was taken away, now we have $600,000 homes, and then it goes down from there. There are some that would be $300,000. We would have places that could have $200,000 homes again, which seems like an impossibility in today's environment, but it is possible without government regulation. So day one, those regulations are removed with a stroke of my pen, and then we encourage those businesses to start building more homes, to start building more communities, to start building more apartment complexes. We take away the regulations and the requirements that the state is putting on local governments, and we let local governments run local government how it was supposed to be. They was supposed to be designed that way, that you got to pick which city or which town you wanted to live in based on how they operated that city. And that's how it should be. Every single city should not be being told how to operate and how to build and how to regulate by the state. That means then we just don't have individual cities and towns. We just have the state telling us what to do. That's not how our government was designed. So we give power back to the local jurisdictions, to our county governments and to our city governments, and then they are able to better provide that service to the people that live there. It's not rocket science, and it's not difficult. It's going to be employing common sense and allowing local governments to take care of the residents that they serve, while California is doing the ultimate and serving the population of California rather than the other way around, which is right now we're working just to give money to the state. We're working for the state instead of the state working to make our lives better.
Yeah. Well, so that was a good answer. So we're about a third of the way through our questions, and we thank you for answering so far every single one. To all the viewers out there watching, let us know what you think. What do you think about Bianco and his ideas, his plans so far? Drop your thoughts on X or YouTube, use the hashtag #BreakTheBlueWave26 because that's what we're trying to do. And let's keep the conversation going. Housing costs, they hit the people's wallets hard. And voters are fed up with Sacramento's wasteful spending, driving up their taxes. Your budget experience as sheriff could make a difference here. So Gio has the next question on this subject.
Sheriff, you had a great answer there. And
Mhm.
following up at the tail end of that, how would you cut the $12 billion deficit without raising taxes or cutting public safety?
Yeah. So number one, so my role with public safety, if you historically go back to our government, that is the number one role and function of our government. Our federal government's number one role and responsibility is our military to protect us from other countries. And the number one role of our local governments, whether it's city, county, or state, is the protection of its residents in that state. We cannot have, doesn't matter what the cost of living is if it's not safe to go outside of your residence. It doesn't matter what the cost of gas is if it's not safe to go to the gas station. Government's number one priority is public safety, and we will reinstate that into our priorities here in California, because right now public safety is down at the bottom. So we have to realize that our government is an absolute mess of waste, abuse, and fraud of our taxpayer money. We saw legitimately I don't care if you like him or not, but Elon Musk went in and exposed the dirtiness of government in the absolute waste of taxpayer money where they have absolutely no clue where it's going. If you don't think that the state of California is doing the same thing, you're absolutely mistaken, and you're kind of naive to the entire situation. There is nothing but waste and abuse that is going on there, and the truth of that is it's impossible to miss $20 billion. How do they not know where 10% of our budget, how do they not know where that money went? I'll put it to you and say, look at your own budget. And we'll just say round numbers. Let's say you make $100,000. If you were missing $10,000, would you know where that $10,000 is? I guarantee you would. You would know down to the dollar where your money was going. And we have a system of government that is just absolutely abusing our taxpayer dollars and wasting it without knowing where it's going, to the point of, in the last 10 years, the size of government has doubled. Our budget 10 years ago was low $160 billion, and now we're at $330 billion. You honestly look and say, in the last 10 years, have I gotten twice the amount of service from my government? And the answer is no. That increase was increased tax revenue that they have just taken from us, and they have abused it and spent it in places where it has absolutely disappeared and wasted. So much so that $12 billion is short. And it's all because of government waste. We must stop the waste. We must shrink the size of government. And by doing that, we can shrink the amount of taxes that we're taking from us. One of my plans, I truly do believe I'm going to win this election. And after the first 4 years, we're going to be doing such a bang up job. You're going to elect me again. And by the end of that 8 years, the process that we start on day one, by the end of 8 years, and I say that because it's going to take many, it's going to take between 4 and 6 years probably. So we got to give it 2 terms. We will eliminate California's state income tax. There are 10 other states in the country that operate without taxing their residents. Why is California not one of them? Why are we the highest taxed people in the entire country? It doesn't make any sense. We do have the biggest economy. We could be attracting more businesses to California, make it more business friendly instead of business unfriendly. We make them all go away and close instead of bringing more new ones in. And then that stimulates the growth. That stimulates the economy. And now all of a sudden, we don't need all of those taxes. We don't need those things to make government run. So we shrink the size of government. We have our priorities in order of where we spend our money, and the absolute money that is being wasted and abused has to stop. And to be quite honest with you, We know it's happening. We know it's illegal, and people are going to have to be punished for it. They've been doing it for years. They've gotten away with it, and we're going to have to make an example of some of the people that we catch off the beginning to make sure that nobody else is going to do it again.
Sheriff, it's a long road ahead, but I can tell that you want to fight for us here in California. So which program would you eliminate first?
There are so many aspects. Well, homeless is a big one. Homeless would be billions of dollars taken away from the homeless industrial complex that we can either put to better use or just stop doing it. I mean, there's no sense in just taking money from one bad place and putting it in another bad place. We don't have to increase the size of our government. We have to shrink the size of our government. The government employees that we already know from independent auditors is an absolute waste of money. It's redundancy in government just so we can have more employees. And some of them, unfortunately, shouldn't be there. And when you stimulate the economy to make it business friendly, there's going to be plenty of jobs out there. Plenty of jobs out there by stimulating businesses to expand and new businesses to come in. And they'll be in the private sector, not the government sector. We're still going to have to hire firemen. We're still going to have to hire law enforcement at the state level. That's still going to be a requirement. We're still going to have to fund our jail system and our prison system. Those are a requirement. We have to have an adherence to laws and a consequence to laws if we're going to have a civilized society. So we just have to have our priorities in order. And when the money goes away, that's it. You're down at the bottom of the priorities, and those things aren't funded anymore. It's as simple as that. But you have to have somebody willing to say no to all of these special interests. And I'll make it very, very simple for you. All of us have an income that we have per month. And when we get to the end of that income, when we've written the last check or we've done the last ATM withdrawal, you don't get to just go to somebody and say, give me more money. You're done until the end of the month, until you get paid again. Why is government not operating the same way? Why are we allowing our government to just keep taking more of our money and say, I don't want to save money this month, so I need to take more of your money to pay those bills? That's what's happening right now. And we have to have somebody going in that's fiscally responsible, which is going to be me, just like I did in Riverside County, just like I did in the sheriff's office, just like we've done where we've forced other departments in our county to change and be responsible for their budgets and spending the money that we can or that we have and not asking for more at the end of the year. That mentality has to be at the state level, and that's what I'm offering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A leaner budget then could free up resources, right? Like crisis, wildfires, which keep devastating our state. Your experience coordinating emergency response sets you up to tackle this. So Silva would like to expand on this one.
Budget's everything. And then with budget, you got to hire wildfire prevention, firefighters, CAL FIRE, you name it. And in California, this year in 2025, we've seen some disastrous wildfires throughout the state. And I want to say specifically my hometown, Hoopa Valley, we've had numerous wildfires right here, and also the city of Riverside. And my question goes regarding wildfire prevention. How will you boost wildfire prevention and fund it without tax hikes?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question because it's actually easy. The fire department, CAL FIRE, which is our state fire entity, has been wanting to prevent fires for my entire 32 years in public safety. Hand in hand, we've been fighting fires since 1993 when I came online, and I've heard the same story over and over and over for the last 32 years from our fire department, from our employees, that the state does absolutely nothing to prevent fires. They do everything they can to try and put them out once they happen, but we have to have mitigation efforts that clean up old debris, old fuel, which is the yearly deposits of dried brush and trees that we have that just keep building up. And California regulation, environmental regulation, which is it's a special interest that is punishing all of us in the name of CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act and the Coastal Commission that actually prevents the fire departments from going in and getting rid of that old brush. It prevents them from doing off-season burns, controlled burns, where you burn a section of old growth, of old fuel. So fire is natural. We know fire is going to happen. So if we make it happen in a certain area, now we absolutely know that there isn't going to be a fire that's going to burn down one of our cities. And the reality of California is we've known this is going to happen for decades. And the last 5 years, our insurance company has been begging the state, every insurance company, home insurance company, has been begging the state for mitigation efforts to reduce the size and the disasters that are happening because of these fires. And the state will not allow it. The fire department wants to make it happen. They want to do these prevention efforts. So with me as governor, I will actually allow them to go out and do mitigation efforts during the off seasons so we do not suffer these massive losses of homes and property when these fires happen every single year. There's not been an increase in fires. There's an increase in intensity of the fires that we have, and it's because we have neglected the growth of our forests and the brush and all of that fuel, and we've made it to where when these fires start, it's almost impossible for the efforts that we have to put them out because they're too big, they're too hot, and the efforts just don't work. So it's not a matter of where are you going to get the money. It's just doing the job that they want to do. And I'll tell you something about where we could possibly get the money, because here's an example of priorities in the wrong place. The budget for CAL FIRE, for our fire department for the entire state, is less than $5 billion a year. It's like $4.3, $4.6 billion a year. The amount of money that Newsom is going to give to healthcare, to illegal people who are in this state illegally, in the country illegally, is 11 billion. So almost 3 times the amount of money that we are giving our fire department to keep our cities from burning down. When you think about it in those terms, it's asinine. The state should be absolutely embarrassed that their priorities are in such disarray and out of order that we lost an entire city and half of another one. Altadena and Pacific Palisades were decimated. Those people their lives have been upended for probably 5 years minimum, maybe even more, and maybe even permanently because of the failure of government.
Mm-hmm. We're about halfway through our questions. So, again, thank you for coming here and taking the time. We actually did get a viewer question, and obviously we're only picking the serious ones. So the question is, Sheriff Bianco, across California, many cities are struggling to address chronic homelessness, especially when it involves individuals suffering from severe mental illness like schizophrenia. Yet our current state leadership often treats conservatorship as a civil rights violation, even when people are clearly incapable of caring for themselves. If elected governor, would you support the expansion of conservatorships to ensure these individuals receive the treatment and structure they need?
Yes, I would. And I will tell you this, though. It has to be, we have to put the right people in charge of this, because in the past, not all, but there along the conservatorship lines, there have been many abuses in that. And we have to ensure that we are absolutely working out for the best interests of the person that we are trying to help, and not an outside entity that's trying to make money, or that somebody else is going to benefit from it. Not to say that they can't be paid. They have, and they should, and they serve that role. But we have to have safeguards in place so these people are not abused and their finances are not abused. But the question is right in line of what we absolutely need. There has to be a conservatorship program where they are not making rational decisions. They are absolutely incapable of making a rational decision for their own health, their own safety. Look at where they are in the first place. Look at where they're living. Look at how they're living, and look at the condition of their body. They are killing themselves and they think it's normal. We absolutely must. We have to have conservatorship so we can force them to be sober, so we can force them to have the mental clarity to make the proper decisions that they have to make to be productive and to get out of that conservatorship and back into the lives that they had before it was taken over by the substance abuse and the mental illness. And sometimes it's both, and sometimes it's one or the other. I will tell you this. I do know that I am probably in agreement that there can be mental health problems without drug and alcohol abuse, but something is causing it. And we need to get to the cause of that too. I will tell you this. I am a huge fan of Mr. Kennedy and his Make America Healthy Again stance and the movement that he is doing. Because if you go back into our society in recent records, you can make a direct correlation between the environment that we're in with some of the things that we eat and even vaccinations, forced vaccinations and everything else, and the mental health conditions and illnesses that we are currently suffering. These are all recent. They're not. This hasn't been going on forever. This is a recent phenomenon, and rather than just treat the symptom, we have to get to the cause, the root cause, just like homelessness, and we have to fix it. We have to find out what chemicals from the environment are hurting our bodies and making us have problems. What's causing our kids to be obese? Being obese is not normal. What is causing it, and what's causing those health conditions that come after that? Mental health, depression, all of those things. We have to start fixing what has been major wrong in the last 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great question, and I'd like to thank the viewer for that one. We were previously talking about wildfires, and obviously they drain resources, just like ongoing droughts. Propositions One's water project stalled, voters are frustrated, and your perspective on resource allocation could help. Danny has a very important question on this topic.
Yes, and that's how will you fund and prioritize water storage projects stalled since Prop 1?
Yeah, so we realize you got to realize that it's already funded. And if the government, if Governor Newsom wanted dams, we would have dams. They don't want them, and we've got to. This is where putting me in this position, making me the governor of the state of California. We're going to be fixing so many things because we're going to have to be honest with them, and we have to start being honest and say, right now the government has complete control of government. The current makeup is Democrat control, supermajority. They could do anything they want. They are purposely choosing to not add reservoirs. And actually, what they've done since we passed those bond measures to make more reservoirs so we can have more water, they've actually removed 4 dams. So they've made the situation worse instead of fixing it like the voters wanted to. The reality is, if you want to control people, if you want to control their taxes, if you want to keep increasing and taking more from them, you have to control their water and you have to control their food. If you control their water, you automatically control their food because you control what they're going to be able to grow, what they're going to be able to feed or water livestock, all of those things. So we have to get to a point where we're being honest, and we have to get to a point where we are just going to impose what we already voted for, and that is the construction of dams. Right now, they're using environmentalists and blaming environmentalists when they can just take away the tool that the environmentalist has, and that's the Coastal Commission and CEQA. So you take away that environmental concern on day one, and then on day two, I call the president, and rather than saying, "Mr. President, I'm going to sue you," or "Mr. President, I'm going to fight you in court," I'm going to say, "Mr. President, I want you to help us make California better. We have more water in this state than any state in the country. We just have a water management problem. I've eliminated the regulations with my signature that have prevented us from building these dams. I really need the Army Corps of Engineers to come in here and start building me dams." And I guarantee you the next day, we would have the Army Corps of Engineers in here building us dams to provide us with the water that we need. Not only the groundwater, we have to redo the groundwater. We have to resupply the groundwater. We have to have storage for what we need in bad times. And our government is what is preventing that from happening now. And all you have to do is put the right person in there with the mentality of, I'm going to take care of Californians instead of special interest groups. And that's how we're going to get things done. I wish everyone would realize how simple it would be if we just had a leader in the governor's office. That's truly all it needs. And a leader, the number one attribute of a leader, which is what I truly have to offer, and I have 32 years of proof behind it, is a leader has to care about the people that he represents, has to care about other people more than that leader cares about himself. And I have proven over my lifetime that that's my mentality, that's my makeup, and that's what we're going to do from the governor's office down.
No, I appreciate that answer. And we've talked to other candidates, and everybody's got a solution, kind of like the one that you proposed. But when we hear these answers, it seems like a massive task that would take a very long time to accomplish. And given your answer, what does that timeline look like?
It's how fast can they build a dam? It's not. I mean, it would several months. It would take several months to build a massive dam. At the absolute most, a year, but probably not. We do it in other countries all the time. Our Army Corps of Engineers goes into other countries, and we take care of them all the time. We build them reservoirs. We build them dams. We build them waterways, water infrastructures. They could do the same thing for us. We could do it here. We could do it in the private sector. We could pay a private company to go build a dam. Let me put it to you this way. I have tons of friends that are in the construction industry. I have friends that build complexes, that build the massive, block complexes. I have friends that build entire home communities, and I have friends that build one home at a time. And all of them tell me the exact same thing. It should take 90 days to build a house. California, it takes 3 years and sometimes longer. All of that is because of government regulation. If we take away that regulation, the private sector, the people, the businesses, the proud Californians, the hardworking Californians are going to take care of this effort. They're going to take care of what we are missing, because that's human nature. That's how we have made it to be the greatest civilization country in the history of the world. It's ingenuity, it's innovation, it's dedication, perseverance, hard work. That's the American way. That's the Californian way. And we just need to get government out of our way so we can actually make it happen. We will build these dams in a matter of months. And at the absolute most, in a year, it will from start to finish be done. But you have to start on it immediately. And we can actually do that immediately, because not only do we get rid of the regulations to make it happen, we already have the money. The money is already there, and the money's already been allocated. We're going to do it.
Yeah. No, and especially here in California, water keeps communities thriving. And you kind of touched on this subject a little bit earlier, and so does healthcare, especially those hit by Medi-Cal cuts. Low-income Californians are struggling, and voters want solutions. So Gio will have a question in regards to Medi-Cal.
Sheriff, how will you restore Medi-Cal access for low-income residents with low-cost saving reforms?
Yeah, that's a great answer, and it's going to be because we're going to put the plan in place that we've already had before, that government has changed and taken away. So there are legitimate government entities that our role is to make sure that we don't allow someone to suffer, that if we should be doing everything we can to cut costs. Now, it's a little bit different and a little bit more broad, but the problem that we have here is the cost of medical. It's not necessarily the availability, it's the cost of medical. And so if we lower that cost of medical, That's how you get to that, to now that whether it's a cut or whether it's a reduction or whatever it is, if the entire overall cost is lowered, then that was what you wanted in the first place. It doesn't have to be more money given into the Medicaid system or the Medi-Cal system. It has to be less expense going into the system so we're able to manage it. So I've already been talking with the industry leaders in hospitals, in doctors' offices, in even in the insurance industry, and there are major problems in where that money is going and the profit margins that they are getting on our backs. And we have to take that away. There are regulations that are not being implemented that have to be to control costs. There are regulations that are put in place that allow bad things to happen that we have to remove. There's not one thing that I can say, oh, we're simply going to do X and that's going to take care of our Medi-Cal Medicaid problem, because that's not true. There's 20 things within the system that are all working against themselves to cause not only the increase in costs, but the lack of resources that we have for people that need it. And so there's not one answer. There's 20 answers. But the real overall answer is we're going to put people in place. I will remove the people that are supposed to be managing it now and put people in place in those commissions, these boards, and these groups that manage that make that happen, that actually have the same interests as I do, and that's making Californians' lives easier and better instead of harder and more difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are almost through about 4 more questions, I think, and we thank you again. So if you're watching, please drop your questions, and like I said, use the hashtag Break the Blue Wave. We did get another viewer question, and I will pop it up on the screen here. It's what would you do to bring companies back to California?
Yeah. So if you talk to any company that left, they leave because of regulations and taxes. We absolutely must lower the tax burden on businesses. That's the highest in the country. And we absolutely must eliminate the regulations that appease special interests to our own detriment. So you remove the regulations that no other state has, and you remove the taxes that no other state has. And now all of a sudden, those businesses come back. This is what I will tell you that every business person tells me, and that this is common knowledge in the country. There is not a business in the country that has a meeting on Monday that says, hey, how are we going to increase the size of our business? How are we going to be better? And someone stands up and says, I know, let's move to California. There is no one doing that, because it is well known throughout the country that California is the most business unfriendly state in the country. And we have to change that. It is regulation and it is taxes. You have to eliminate them. We eliminate them with a stroke of a pen. It's not rocket science. I wish I could impress this so much. There are plenty of you out there listening that you are just as qualified as anybody else to run government, as long as you have common sense and you care about other people more than you care about yourself, and you're not greedy for money. If you have that ability, you're just as qualified as anybody else to run government. And what we find now is the problem that we have is we don't have those people in our government. And we have to start voting better. We have to start voting for character, for integrity, for honesty, and leadership ability instead of whatever else is happening that we're voting for, because those are the ones that are taking advantage of us. If we eliminate the burden on business that allows businesses to grow, that brings more businesses either back into the state that left or new businesses that would like to come into the most populous state in the country. It is quite simply as easy as that. And we know it's as easy as that because all of the states that are benefiting right now, the Texas, the Florida, the Arizona, the Nevada, the Idaho, the Tennessee, all of those states that are massively growing and their economy is booming, they are the ones that are making those taxes less, the regulations less, and they're bringing all of that business into their states. That is why their residents are thriving.
Yeah. Yeah. Great question by the viewer, and great answer. Um, as we were talking about healthcare and how that supports the vulnerable, the education builds our futures. Schools are underfunded and teachers are striking. Californians are demanding change, and Silvas would take it from here.
Our state needs to be prosperous, and one of the key metric of a prosperous state is maintaining an education funding. And the question of regarding education is, how will you reform Proposition 98 to fund schools and teachers with accountability?
Yeah, so we have to, this is another honesty thing here that we have to get to. Stop saying that schools are not funded, because our schools are overfunded. It costs about $20,000 a year that the state is paying to public education per student. That's like almost 3 times the amount of a private education. That makes absolutely no sense. We do not have a money problem. We have a money waste problem and a lack of accountability problem. People are removing their students from public schools and putting them in private school, in charter schools, in home schools, because our public schools are absolutely failing. They are no longer educating our kids. It got to the point that was so bad, the failure was so obvious, they removed the testing process from our schools, so there were no longer a data proof that they were absolutely failing, that we were last in the country, that we were 48th, 49th, 50th in the country in the quality of our education, in the success of our students. We have failed multiple generations of students because of the absolute abuse, the waste of money in our education system that does not go toward the education of our kids. It goes toward the bureaucracy of above the principal level, at the district level, at all of these things that are wasting the money that kids are not getting. How can we be paying 3 times more than private education, but our teachers, our public school teachers, are having to go buy pencils and paper and crayons and supplies for their kids because the schools are not giving it to them? It makes absolutely no sense. There is the abuse and fraud has to be eliminated. So here's what I will do as the governor. I control the money that goes to education system, the public education system. We will absolutely have a voucher system that not only do you get to pick the school that you're going to, you can also pick charter schools, you can pick private schools, you can pick home schools, because all of those have been proven in the past, current past, that they are more productive and more capable of educating our kids than our current public school system. Then we will force our public school system to actually be responsive to the needs of our kids, to the needs of our parents, and start educating and be successful at educating our kids. That is what is going to save the public education system. It's them having to compete with the private sector for those education dollars. If they want the money from the voucher system, then they better provide a great education system to the parents and the kids, because that's what we're supposed to be doing in the first place. The only thing that I will say about the education system is the governor's role in the education system is extremely limited to only the funding. The head of our education system, our public education system, is an elected official that runs their own government bureaucracy. And we are also in the same election electing that person. And I will tell you right now, when you check that box for me, the box right below for the person in charge of our schools absolutely must be Sonia Shaw. And then with me as your governor, controlling the funding, controlling the vouchers, controlling where the freedom of parents to pick where their kids are going to get their education, and Sonia making sure that that our education system is actually committed to the education of our kids, we will once again go back to what we were before, where California was number one in student education. And now, depending on what you look at, what chart, we're either 48th or 50th. 48, 49, or 50. We are at the absolute bottom, and it should be embarrassing.
Yeah, yeah. No, we agree. Sonia Shaw is our top pick right there. So we're on the same page there. She's a fighter, and you know, she's battling through through her school board and all that. So we thank her for what she does. Kind of staying related to education and school and all that. Parents also want more control over their kids' schooling and fairness in policies. School choice and Title IX, which you kind of you brought up, school choice are hot topics for voters, and Danny would like to ask more about this.
Yes, Sheriff. How will you support school choice and ensure fair Title IX policies?
Yeah. So Title IX is obviously a requirement that is protecting our students, protecting our kids, that California is not abiding by. We absolutely must have an adherence to those rules because they were designed to make our education system fair. They were designed to make the differences between boys and girls obvious, and allow girls to be able to participate in their own sports equally like boys do. And we absolutely must. As the governor of the state, we will abide by Title IX, and we will ensure that our girls are protected. There will not be boys participating in girls' sports. There will not be, I mean, the worst case scenario in a high school is a 14-year-old, 9-year-old, or ninth grade 14-year-old girl having to be in a shower with a 18-year-old senior boy naked. And it is disgusting that we as adults are even having this conversation, because it defies all logic and it defies sanity that we are actually in this discussion where there are actually schools that are doing that. And I've told our schools, if I find out about it, I will arrest them. I will arrest the administrators, the teachers, the coaches, whoever it was that allowed that to happen and allowed that young girl to be victimized. They will be arrested.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry about that. I had it on mute. Um, so great point on that. But we have some viewer questions in regards to AB 84. So, as governor, what would you do to combat bills that are obviously um, trying to get students that have gone to homeschools back into the public school system?
Yeah, the only reason why that is happening is because public schools, are funded by their enrollment, and they are failing so horribly that people are refusing to send their kids to school. They're bringing them to a homeschool environment. They're bringing them to a charter school environment. They're paying through their own money to educate their kids in a private school. And the only way that the state that they believe, instead of making the public schools better, the only way they think that they can fix it is to force those kids from charter schools, homeschool, and private schools back into the public school system. That's it. I wish that, I'm looking at some of the comments, and there are a lot of pessimistic people out there that they're just complainers. They're going to say, no, you can't do it. You can't do it. It's impossible. No. Everything is no. And the reality is most often no just means I don't want to try. I don't want to do it. And it's just not going to happen. So no, it can't be done because I don't want to go through the effort to do it. And the reality is if we want to make things better, we have to start being honest with the problem in the first place and fix the problem. We will not have these over-regulated, these overburdensome fees, and the things that they're doing now with the charter school system and the homeschool system, simply to force them back into the private or the public education system. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And if they came to watch this show to be pessimistic, they picked the wrong one, because we're some of the most optimistic guys. That's why we use the hashtag Break the Blue Wave 26, because we're either crazy or we really feel we're gonna turn this thing around next year. So, we don't do pessimistic here. So school policies
We
affect.
have to have
Yeah.
hope.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or what are we doing here? School policies affect our kids, but getting around California impacts everyone, with high gas prices and bad roads frustrating voters daily. I know Gio isn't happy about these gas taxes, so I'll let him ask the next question.
Well, Sheriff, I want to ask a question about something that's been hitting national headlines recently. Will you redirect high-speed rail funds to fix roads and lower gas taxes?
Yeah, 100%. You know, the lower the gas, so the answer is a yes and a no. The high speed rail will be gone. We will not waste one more dollar on the high speed rail system. The gas taxes can be eliminated anyway with the production of our own oil. We're paying other countries, we're making other countries rich because we export or import 80% of the oil that we use. The largest state, the largest user of gasoline, which and oil, they're the same things. We refine it into gas. The largest user of oil in the country, and we import 80% of our oil from other countries. We're making them rich instead of drilling our own oil that's underneath our own ground. It makes absolutely no sense. So you eliminate all of those transportation costs to get the oil here in the first place by drilling your own. You refine it here in California by getting rid of the regulations that are stopping the refineries from actually working. And all of a sudden, we have the lowest gas price in the country. It's a supply and demand thing. If we have the supply, we have the demand. So make them come together and make it work. That's how you lower the cost. It's simple. And if you speak with the people in these industries, they tell you how simple it is. But it is the state government that is preventing it from happening. All you have to do is look at every other state. They don't suffer from the same regulations that we do. They don't have the same taxes that we do. They don't have the same government regulations that we do. And we are the ones suffering for it.
Mm-hmm. And is there because the roads don't get fixed. Man, I had my I had my question and I went blank. My
Infrastructure.
apologies.
So the roadways and the waterways and our electricity grid, our power grid, those are infrastructures. Government's number one role is our safety. Number two is the infrastructure. The infrastructure is our roadways, allowing us to get around, allowing us to get to work, allowing us to move around. California's roadways are a disaster, and they have been for a long time. All you have to do is drive across the state line, and you can tell you're in a different state just by the condition of the freeways. It's completely obvious. We have to readjust where California is spending our money based on priorities. It has to be keeping us safe. It has to be keeping us safe from criminals and from fire. It has to have the infrastructure for our electricity. How many of you have lost electricity in the last year when it was 110 out? And you have no air conditioning because they turned the power off on you. Or it was cold in the wintertime and you lose all power, so you have no heat. My daughter, she has a baby, and they had to move in with us for 3 weeks because they were without power for 3 weeks just because they turned it off. No reasoning, no explanation. We just do not have the infrastructure to supply Californians what we need. And it's because of a failure of government by appeasing special interests at our expense. And we have to get rid of that. And it's not going to change unless you put someone like me in that position that has an absolute proven history of doing everything for other people, especially in government. I'm the only person that's in government that's running right now, an elected official, currently elected official, and that has been responsible for spending taxpayer money and proving to you that it can be done wisely, under budget, saving money, and more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And what I was going to ask, it came back to me, it was, would you, some of these projects like that related to infrastructure, would you use private sector? Because I know, I'm pretty sure Florida did a high speed rail in 4 years of, I think I want to say 200 miles. And I don't know how many miles we have, maybe 20 in 20 years. Is using the private sector something that you would consider?
Yes, and so private sector. I hope everybody realizes the private sector is by far cheaper than government. It's more effective than government. It's more streamlined than government. Government pays more for government work than anyone else. And there are certain instances in the law that allow government in certain situations to use the private sector to come up with cost saving measures for the public. We have implemented those in Riverside County. I am the one that did that in our own construction projects for the sheriff's office buildings. And because we were saving so much money, the rest of the county has employed those same things from our project management office, and they are now saving millions of our county dollars that have I want to say wasted on government spending rather than utilizing the law and private sector partnerships. They're called private party partnerships with that government can get into, that we save tons of money and we get a better product.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I feel like it does work better, like you said, and if it's cheaper, I don't see why not. Transportation keeps us moving, but California's tech future, especially AI, is raising new concerns about jobs and privacy. Voters want leadership on this, and Silva's had a question in regards to this.
Yes. So before we talk about AI, I do want to say, Sheriff, that we talked about in this episode, we talk about transportation, infrastructure. And I just want everybody to know, all the audience knows that for almost 10 years, I was in the construction industry. Mostly all those years, I was an asphalt roadway worker. I paved roads. I was an operator. I currently have a Class A trucker license, so I operated the dump trucks and operated heavy machinery. So everything that we talked about touch home. And another thing too, the private sector to help rebuild California, to help you out assist the high speed rail, to help build better roads, because California needs all that. And another thing too, to help and assist us to rebuild California is AI. So what, I'm a millennial. I'm 34 years old right now at the time. I grew up with computers, and I remember they were teaching us at school that computers is the future, and we're going to have AI to help build a better California. So here I am, 2 decades down the road, and I'm seeing California is burning. We're crashing. We're losing business. So, and I know you want to change all that. And my question is, in Silicon Valley used to be the tech capital of the world, and I feel like we're losing that in California. And I hope you could bring it back. So the question is, how will you how will we create growth in tech companies, and also mostly, how will you regulate AI to balance growth and protect workers and privacy?
Yeah, so we absolutely have to realize that with innovation throughout history, and I mean, if you go ask your parents, how they grew up, and compare that to how you grew up to now how kids are growing up now, technology advancements are at a point right now where my grandfather could not even fathom what we have available. And every time there was new technology, the pessimists again, it's like, oh, the sky is falling. We can't have that. People said that phones were going to be the downfall. Telephones are horrible. And then all of a sudden we have not only telephones, we have computers in our pockets that are phones, that are cameras, that are computer systems that people could not even imagine possible 30 years ago. When I started law enforcement, I was writing reports on either with a pencil, so I could erase them, or a brother word processor that was a very basic word processor. And now we have AI that can write reports. Deputies can write reports based off what their camera sees. And the AI uses what their camera sees and hears to write the report. And so we have to realize that technology has always been around making our lives better. There's always things that are going to scare us into saying, oh my gosh, computers are going to run the world and there won't be any place for humans anymore. That's absolutely just not true. That was a long time ago. They said that with technology, and they forced people to get into the gaming world, the technology world, the computer world. And now we have entire industries where no one works. There's no one to wire your house. There's no one to work on your car. There's no one to build your home. All of those trade things kind of got pushed away because people were moving toward the technology. And now we're in AI, and we're saying that all our jobs are going to go away because of AI. That's there. We have to be cognizant that could be a possibility, because everything good can also be used for bad. And so I don't want to say that we absolutely have to make sure that it's regulated. We just have to have really our thumb on the pulse to say we have to make sure that AI isn't being used for bad that's detriment to society. We do have to have regulations on some of it. We do have to have controls on some of its ability. But just by saying AI is bad and we have to do away with AI and can't have it, that's not necessarily true, because that's just technology advancing that's making our lives better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like with everything, right? You have to, like you said, what's good could be bad. So you kind of have to be cautious with it, and just kind of see where it goes, right? And if you see a red flag, hey, we gotta cut this out. We're getting, our next question is our final question, but I want to throw one random question that wasn't on the list. Um, what happens to carb on day one?
Carb will be gone. I mean, there was carb. Carbs started out as kind of a good idea, but there is why our California businesses, our California workers, our California drivers, our California industries being punished to save the world when no one else is. The United States has a fantastic EPA, an environmental protection agency that has all kinds of regulations and rules to make sure that we maintain a clean environment. And we absolutely should be making sure that we maintain a clean environment. Why is California and what we're doing in California, and we're being punished for it and charged for it and almost taxed and billed out of existence, and nobody else in the country is doing it? It makes no sense. It's a feel good position to say you're doing more than somebody else, while we can't have businesses anymore because they can't afford the upgrades to their vehicles because of carb, or they can't afford the regulations, or cap and trade is causing them to have to spend so much more money that no one else is doing, that it doesn't make sense. So carb is gone on day one. We will still make sure that we abide by EPA rules, so we're not over polluting the environment, that we're not destroying the environment, but we're not going to be on a pedestal saying we're better than everybody else because look at what our regulations are. It's EPA on steroids that are truly costing us out of existence.
Mm-hmm. No, that's what I was hoping to hear. So we've covered a lot with you, Sheriff, and we are thankful for your time. Hopefully the viewers, you know, can tell us what they think about your plans. They could drop the comments on X or YouTube, and most importantly, share this, not for us, but for people to hear from the candidate, right, from Chad Bianco himself. We think that's very important. So this will be our final question to you, Sheriff, is what's your final message to our listeners about why you're the leader to fix California's challenges and restore hope as a governor?
Yeah, so that's a fantastic way to end. And I will tell you, if I believed, so right now I know California is failing. We all know California is failing its residents. There's more people leaving that are coming in. We are the worst in everything that we're supposed to be the best at, and we're number one at the things we're supposed to be the worst at. All aspects of California seem to be going downhill or have already hit the bottom. And we absolutely must turn things around in this state. And we do that by our election process. And what I'm hoping is that California is at a point that they're ready to elect a leader to make all of these changes that it's a 180-degree turn. It's not, it's employing common sense and reason and sanity back into our government and back into our decision making. And when you look at what I have done in the last 32 years, my entire adult life, 32 years in this profession, it will be 8 by the time you vote. As the sheriff of the 4th largest sheriff's department in the country, I have a $1.3 billion budget that I manage effectively in the black every year. And I have changed an entire county government that now works better for its residents. There's no one else on this ballot that is going to have that resume. There's no one else that is going to be able to claim the leadership ability, the ability to lead other humans. And when I say that, A lot of people are saying we just need the head of a business to be in government. Well, I'm going to tell you that is an absolute failure. It's a recipe for disaster, because private business and government are completely different. In private business, we need private business leaders, and we need those business savvy people to make those businesses work and everything else. But if you have an environment that's not working, you just scrap it and you fix it. If you have half of your employees that aren't doing their job, you fire them and hire more employees to do the job. That's not how government works. Government actually needs a leader that convinces everyone else that they have to do the right thing for the right reasons. And you have to lead them down that path of making that happen rather than threatening them down that path. And that is why, if you're effective in government, it's because you're either a natural leader or you've learned it over time. And I will tell you this right now. If I do know that California needs a direction change. And I do know that we absolutely must elect somebody different in this next election to be our governor. If I believed that anyone had a better opportunity of reaching the voters, of being electable, of being elected in this state, if they had a better opportunity than I do, I would get behind them wholeheartedly, because I can promise you my job as sheriff is better than the job I'm going to have as governor. It's going to be more headache. It's going to be more haters, more animosity toward what we're trying to fix from the machine of Sacramento that doesn't want it fixed. It's going to be ugly when I get there. I would rather be the sheriff. But I also know I don't want to move out of California. I don't want my kids moving out of California. And right now, I have the best opportunity of winning this election based on my history, based on my leadership ability, based on my ability to manage a massive government budget and keep it in the black every year. It's a desire to do everything I possibly can on a day-to-day basis to make somebody else's life better.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with you. We need better leadership, and we are hoping, like I said, we're optimistic, right? We're saying break the blue wave in 26 because that is our goal. That's what we're going to fight for from here until November of next year. And, hopefully we do a little celebrating, but, we maintain it after that, because it's not going to be over. So, that was Chad Bianco. You heard from him directly. And he's bringing his lawman resolve to California's fight for change. And we want to thank you, Sheriff, for coming on. Thank you to everyone that tuned in. Until next time, if you could stay on for a minute, Sheriff, that'd be good. But until next time, everybody else, peace be with you and God bless.